Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another iTWire video. Today I have Richard Cohen. He is the Chief Information Officer of PFD, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Thank you. So probably the best thing to do is to start by asking you to give us the short version of the history of PFD, how it started, and 151 years later, where you are today.
Yeah, I think the important, I guess, piece of where PFD has really evolved from is more over the last 30 or so years. So life started as processed fish distributors some 150 odd years ago, and the business sort of moved along distributing fresh seafood, and it wasn't until in the 1950s when Rick Smith migrated out from Scotland to Australia. And he joined the business starting as a truck driver, became a sales manager, was involved with a management buyout during the 70s, and then he is essentially bought out the management and took full control of the PFD business. And I've been with PFD for the last 10 years, and in that period of time, the organisation has just continued to grow from strength to strength, where we are Australia's leading family-owned food service distributor with an Australian-wide, truly Australian-wide national footprint, with some 70 sites scattered all around Australia, the capital cities and regional towns. Each site is functional on its own in that it has its own tri-temperature warehouse, its own fleet of trucks, its own sales representative teams out there liaising with customers, its own telesales and order capture people, and essentially they operate flowing back into a state-based and then a national structure.
Yeah, I mean, that must be 70 instances of an IT set up as well in each of those locations.
That's correct. So we operate a centralised data centre environment, an application environment, and each site accesses that central data centre through Telstra's MPLS network. And each site has its own infrastructure that we need to be able to manage and support.
So we can imagine some of the issues for food distribution might be if a truck breaks down, or if there's perhaps problems with suppliers, but what have been some of the technological issues you've had to deal with over the past 10 years with all of that data and all of that technology and the changes you would have seen in the past 10 years?
It has, when I joined, the business was essentially a 24/5 operation. We are now really a true 24/7 operation. We start with real-time sales order capture. It's real-time pick, invoice and dispatch process, and we need that capability to be able to raise purchase orders on suppliers, meeting their cut-off times so that we've got the stock in our warehouses that our customers want and need. So for us, from an IT front, the biggest issue we've had to ensure is data center /server /application availability on that 24/7 basis, coupled with the sheer volume of data that we collect. Each site has roughly 5,000 SKUs, between 3,000 to 5,000 SKUs that it can sell to our customers. We've got some 90-odd thousand customers on our books in total. So I guess the combinations of customers and orders and deliveries and therefore the magnitude of data is immense.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you about the data center and some of the things there in a moment, but it just struck me, are your staff having to use mobile devices where they're taking orders or they're issuing invoices? Are they doing that in the field, or is it all done in the head office? I mean, obviously all of that would be connected these days back to the data center anyway, but what's the short version of some of the devices you're using?
Yeah, so we have a multitude of different ways of sales order capture. It's a phone call to the local branch. It's a fax to the local branch, or it's the local branch calling the customer. We also have an online ordering environment, so our customers can place their orders into an online facility, build a cart, and submit the order. Plus, we have a mobile app that's currently iOS, and we are looking at an Android version. And we arm our sales reps with an iPad and an application technology on the iPad that allows them to capture an order with the customer as well. And all of those different order touch points are all based around real-time order capture, processing into the system, stock availability, and I guess ensuring that the customer gets the correct price that they should be paying for the product.
Sure. Now we'll get into your transition to CommVault and your work with VennIT in a moment. But before you were with both, CommVault and VennIT, I mean, there was a time when you were using tape backups, and you've been migrating to disk and then cloud. But what was your data center and infrastructure like before moving to CommVault and VennIT? And then let's start with that.
Okay. So we utilise Telstra's Exhibition Street data centre as our primary production environment. And a number of servers that we've got racked in there, and essentially we were using an application that was writing to tape. So we would do we would perform an overnight backup of a write to disk. Online during the week, offline on a weekend, and then we would then back that up to a tape environment, and we were struggling greatly. We were finding that the online backup runs, instead of taking 3 to 4 hours, were starting to take 6 to 7 hours, and the write to tape exercise was taking all day. And the impacts on our production environment were dramatic and immense from a speed and performance perspective.
I mean, what had once been state of the art was quickly becoming overwhelmed by the pace of technology.
Absolutely, and a lot of that was driven by the business's growth, and I guess just the increase in the volume of transactions, and as such, the volume of data that we needed to back up, coupled with what we were starting to evolve our use of our non-core business system applications, and as the technology evolved out in industry, more internet-based, more Windows-based applications, because our main business system is a green screen application to cater for the sheer volume of data we need to transact. We were finding, Microsoft Word and Excel files needed storage in an environment, and they needed to be backed up. We have other business applications we were introducing. They also needed to be thrown into the mix, and we were just finding that the size of essentially all that data that needed to be captured, backed up, and stored was becoming far greater than the time slot we had available to us to perform that function.
Sure.
Then the other sort of scary bit, if you like, that to throw in with that was the recovery time, which is just as important as the backup time.
Yes.
Is that if we ever needed to recovering from that, from the tape technology and the applications we were using to perform that function was essentially too long. Was too slow for us.
So I mean, we can see from what you're saying that you really did need to upgrade your infrastructure and move to a newer level. How was it that you came to be introduced to VennIT and CommVault? Did they ring you? Did you ring them? Was there a tender? What's the short version of how that happened?
Sure. So we've had a relationship with Venn IT and the key players with Venn IT for a number of years now, and they have essentially been looking after our infrastructure environment for a lengthy period of time. And we sat down with them and had some discussions around how can we do this better? There has to be a better way.
Yeah.
They essentially came back to us and said, we'd like you to have a look at this CommVault application for your backup environment. And then we coupled that with a full review of our DR environment, and we kind of went with a big bang implementation to change the whole shape of how we were operating a contingency setup and structure for us. So if I can just sort of, if I jump into that,
go for it.
I think it's an interesting and quite a success story of leveraging the power of technology.
Yep.
We engaged Telstra to provide a disaster recovery environment at one of their alternate data centres in Sydney. We then, using a combination of Venn IT and CommVault, we then created a replica of our production environment at that data centre environment in Sydney. We now replica our whole production environment through snapshots every hour, and then we use CommVault to then back up those snapshots in our DR environment out into Amazon Web Services in the cloud as our foolproof contingency environment.
So, I mean, that's how you handle implementation and testing and migration, and that's a bit about how your data center is structured. I mean, what else would you like to tell us about how, the testing and migration went, or how the data center is structured? I mean, how long will it take you to recover if there is a major outage? Can you just seamlessly roll over? Is there still a period of time? What else can you tell us just to paint a bit more of the picture?
Sure. So we've actually a full end-to-end disaster recovery test, if you like, from our DR hot site. We found that within 1 hour we could have our main production business system back up and running, and so we were pretty chuffed by that.
Yes.
For us, being an online real-time environment, to have an outage in a DR situation of 1 hour to bring back the main business system, I'm really thrilled about.
Yeah.
It means that the advantages for the business and for our customers to ensure that once they receive, they're always able to receive the products that they need from us, so they can then service their customers. To me is a huge tick for the infrastructure that we've put in place. What we've also found is our ability through CommVault to send the data from our DR environment into Amazon Web Services and then bring that data back should we ever need to, has been seamless. It's been smooth. It's relatively quick, and it certainly plays out in a way that ticks all the boxes for what we're looking for. Outside
of having to test it, have you ever needed to use the 1 hour restore recovery?
Not in a production sense.
Sure.
So thankfully.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But what we have needed to often do is to retrieve other pieces of data from either Amazon to bring them back, or from that DR environment directly, in a production environment. Whether it be particular files or directories, or we needed to have a look at an application before some major changes were made to it. So we've been able to utilise those environments for niche and specific reasons, and it's been successfully. We've been able to successfully complete that every time,
sure,
without needing to go to a tape.
Yeah.
Which is just which has always scared me. It always has worried me. What if something's wrong with the tape?
Yeah.
What if the tape drive can't read the tape? So by being in this online connected world, essentially using CommVault to help drive and steer what's going on, it's high levels of comfort.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and I mean, just on that topic, we had a major bank over the weekend go down, and they thought they'd be down for a few hours, ended up being down for I think a couple of days. I mean, did any of that sort of give you pause and think, hey, should I be beefing up my system even further in ways that perhaps are new to the way CommVault works, or that are coming in future versions?
Yeah, I think what an incident like that does is it does make you, I guess, just sense check where you're at.
Yeah.
So we've actually sat down and just made sure that all our processes are tight, that the way that the data flow out and therefore the data flow back is okay, and that we're comfortable with where that's at, and then we have continual dialogue with Venn IT. And so, we're sort of having discussions with them, just around making sure that there is nothing else out there that we can be looking at today, that will help improve us in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there other things that you're doing with your data center? I mean, are your servers virtualized? Are you doing virtual desktops, or is it at the moment, mainly focused on data integrity?
Yeah, no, we run a VMware virtual environment, which now we use for all our business systems, and that's something that's taken us probably a good 2 to 3 years to migrate over. And so it's a combination of HP servers, NetApps, and VMware, and we find that the robustness that provides serves us very well.
So, are there any other key IT initiatives that are shaping the PFD business beyond what we've spoken about today?
Yeah, the owners of PFD are very committed to technology and investing in technology to help improve the business. And therefore, to ensure that we're providing the best value for our customers. We've invested heavily in a warehouse management RF scanning solution that allows us to scan receipt product from our suppliers when it comes into our warehouses, and then scan the flow of that product through the warehouse out the door onto our trucks. So we've embarked on a major rollout of that sort of application and process to all our sites. So far we've implemented into our hubs, our major hubs, which is a site in every capital city, and we're now looking to push that into our regional sites. And it's an example of how PFD want to leverage technology to provide value, not just only for our employees, but also for our customers as well.
Sure. So how do you see the food distribution business evolving, say, over the next decade? I mean, I have visions of Star Trek-like transportation, but that's decades, if not centuries away. So so there's no need to worry about that kind of disruption anytime soon. But how else might things change?
Sure. Look, the food service industry has I've viewed it as being technologically poor. A lot of the industry is made up of small players. PFD are one of the two largest players in the marketplace, along with our other main competitor. The two of us at this stage only having a truly national footprint, and so we compete against players that are state-based or region-based or capital city-based, and so there hasn't been a lot of propensity in the industry to spend heavily on technology. And what I'm finding is that is starting to change dramatically through, and one of those areas is, like the warehouse management RF scanning initiative that we are carrying out. And what that's going to start doing is will help drive other food service providers to want to invest in that sort of technology to help them, with their businesses. Electronic transacting, EDI, the retail industry went through that whole paradigm shift, courtesy of Coles and Woolworths. That's some 20 odd years ago. We are starting to find ourselves now starting to go through that in the food service environment, where the institutional type customers, so your catering organisations as an example, they are looking for EDI transaction capability, and a lot of our suppliers who supply retail are doing the same. I think it's those sort of electronic transacting type initiatives that are going to help sort of drag the food service industry into the modern age with technology.
Yeah, which sounds good. So just before we get to the end, I always like to change gears and just ask if you could share with the viewers what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received to help you get where you are today.
I thought long and hard about this one, and you're right, it was sort of one from left field, based on the subject. I actually think it's to just be transparent. It's with whatever piece of technology, whatever business process, whatever the activity is that you are looking at to either implement or to recommend or to use, is to just just be transparent with what's the positives with it, what's the negatives with it, what's the expectation of how it's going to play out, and make sure that everybody understands where that piece of technology, that body of work, where it sits and what you expect from it, and then if everyone's then sort of clear with the direction and why you want to play in that space.
Sure, everyone's on the same page then.
Yeah.
So,
correct.
Any final messages for iTWire viewers and readers, and for your current and future customers, and even for businesses who are undertaking a similar data migration and virtualization path?
Yeah, sure. Look, I've only had, I guess, nothing but positive results from the path we've gone down, and more importantly, the relationship that we've got with Venn IT, and the way that they've then introduced us and helped us implement CommVault, as an application and tool. For us. And for me, the last thing that I ever want to have is a phone call from the owners of the business at 2 a.m. that says, our business has been brought to its knees. We can't get invoices out, we can't get trucks out, and our customers can't get their stock. So from my point of view, it's very important that we do have a solid and a robust infrastructure and a base that we can work from. And that's something that I believe, with the combinations of the technology that we've implemented, CommVault being a key component, that we're able to deliver that, deliver what the business needs.
Well, Richard, it sounds like you've got things well in hand, and keeping all of your customers well stocked with food. So I thank you very much for your time, and wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.